are. 4 years later? 5? Feels like 10. It's my Yamaha Banshee again. And this is sort of a status update. It's sort of a reliability checkup to see what broke, what didn't break. And I'm going to go through this again for you and briefly give you a rundown first. 99 Banshee, 2-stroke, twin, a lot of modifications, internally and externally. Cool head, oversized pistons, forged pistons, oversized carbs. Those are Keenan 34mm carbs, pod filters, Nerf bars, extended axles, A-arms, tires, plastics, pipes, T5 pipes, suspension, LED lighting, and the big one, battery upgrade. So 200-watt stator that lives right underneath my stator cover that charges a battery and supplies power to all my accessories. 12 volts, just like a car. So that's a rundown, you know, pretty fast ATV, tops out at about 120 if I put the right sprockets on it. But it's not set up for that. It's a trail bike. It's a trail Banshee. It doesn't have extended swing arms and all that for street racing. I use this every weekend, or maybe every other weekend, and I've been doing that for quite a while. We're talking approaching 8 years now. So this is a real test of the reliability of all the accessories I used. So everything you see on this Banshee has been on here for quite a while, and it's reliable. First thing I'm going to talk about, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, is the battery and the charging system. So I need a new battery. It's the same battery from the last video, and I have gone riding quite a bit, as you can tell. Need a new battery, so my lights won't turn on when it's off. Okay, if I put a new battery in, it'll work fine. But the charging system still works fine. I had purchased an eBay 200-watt stator with a regulator rectifier that lives inside here. Wires that go from the stator to the regular rectifier, turn around and then charge the battery. That's in a gist how it works. And then from the battery you can charge your you can power your accessories. So it's really like a car or a motorcycle. I have a Trail Tech, and this is for the Banshee. Still works fine, still works great. Some of the sensors broke off. I mean, listen, it's an ATV. I expected that. I need a new speed sensor, but the tachometer still works great. Temperature still works great, and those are the two things I really wanted. Now for the things that have changed since the last video. First, the carbs, 34mm Keenan carbs. Those are the single most significant upgrade I've made in terms of power gain. A lot of power gain from just putting in 34mm carbs. Now, a lot of people say, oh, you know, those carbs are too big for that bike and for what you're using it for. No, they're not. They work fine. They work great. You just have to know how to jet them properly. I don't remember the size of the jets I have in this. I think they're 320, 325, I think, but don't quote me on that. I have it jetted properly, and it works great both in the trails and on the road. If I am taking a quick rip down the road, it works great. A lot of power. If you want to gain like 20% horsepower and you have all of the modifications I've talked about, there's pretty much just bolt-on modifications. That's the way you do it. 34mm carbs, jetted properly. Those filters, those K&N air filters, I actually don't recommend those. I'm a little nervous about going into muddy areas because this doesn't offer a lot of protection, and it doesn't do a great job at filtering everything. Even with these pre-screens that I put on here, as you can see, they rip, and not reliable. I don't know if I'm sucking in dust. So that's one thing I'm going to change. The next thing I've upgraded to are the Nerf Bars. Those are great. Great price on eBay or Amazon. Alba, perfect. I love them. That's one of my favorite mods I've done. They're huge, they're gigantic. If you want to, ride a passenger on the back, a lot of room for their feet. I love the netting. Colors match my bike perfectly. At least I think they do. I'm colorblind, so it doesn't make a difference to me. The throttle was really starting to hurt my thumb, as a lot of Banshee owners will say. The thumb throttle is a pain. The clutch was a pain, so I swapped that out. The lever that I got, these aren't really great levers. You'll see them on eBay or Amazon. They're not great. For some reason, they're really hard to pull. I just got this standard chrome clutch lever that works a lot better. Grips are different. I believe I had different bush guards on this, but I didn't really like the look of bush guards, so I just left the bars on there, and they're perfect. LED lights are the same, and in the next in the next segment of this video, I'll talk about everything that went wrong. But what I will say is that those LED lights are the same, tail light's the same, battery is the same, the rear grab bar is the same, the axles are the same, the wheels are the same, the engine's the same. I did rebuild the engine since the last video. I had to rebuild the bottom end, and in doing that, I just replaced the top end too. So the bottom and top end was replaced or rebuilt. Everything else is the same. Plastic is the same. Regarding the powder coating, that's never gonna go. I mean, that'll last forever. So that's pretty much it. Next, I'll talk about everything that went wrong. But before I do that, I just realized there's one other thing. These shocks. I got these progressive shocks off of eBay, 512 on it. These are not the knockoff shocks that you'll see on eBay for $100. And you don't want to buy them. You do not want to buy them because they're dangerous. They'll break. And if you're going at a high speed, that's not safe. So these are legit shocks. They were around 250, 300 bucks, I think. Something like that. Got them a while ago. They still work fine. They're reliable. And they have a slightly better ride than stock. And that's all I'm going to say. They're not Alba shocks. They're not those high-end, over $1,000 suspension systems. These are a good middle-of-the-line shocks. They're not going to break the bank. And I'm not ready to spend $1,500 or $3,000 on a suspension system. I think that's obnoxious. So yeah, these shocks are reliable. They do their job perfectly fine. Now to get into everything that broke. The LED lights. These are eBay $30 LED lights. And it took me a long time to find this style. And if you look real closely, they have a really, really awesome style to them. They don't have this stupid gutter on top that a lot of those LED lights have, and they're not like super thick. They're just the perfect size, the perfect shape, the perfect style. But internally, they're still those cheap eBay LED lights. They still work, but I've noticed that I think 3 of the LEDs that are in there stopped working. It is an ATV, and I do ride it rough. And in their defense, they did last, what, 4 or 5 years? So, I mean, actually, I think that's pretty good. But they did break in the end. Aluminum radiator still works fine, no leaks. The battery was cheap. That stopped working. I got that for like 30 bucks off of eBay. I've migrated to Amazon just because there's reviews now on all these things, and Amazon now has ATV parts that you can buy. So it has ratings, so it motivates sellers to sell high quality items. So everything that I'm getting off of Amazon is just way better in quality than eBay. Don't purchase anything off eBay if you don't have to. Really try to buy as much stuff as you can from Amazon. Quality is 10 times better. These ball joints are driving me nuts. Okay. These are the single most common thing to break on this quad. You can see they're all brand new pretty much just because they keep breaking. And it's scary when they break because The last one to break was this one, and I was about maybe 10 feet up in the air, and as I was going off the ramp, it broke. So I was midair looking at my swing arm flailing around, and I knew that when I would land that it would be rough, so I pretty much bailed and let the quad kind of crash on its own. Luckily it didn't flip over or anything. It just kind of dug into the dirt, and I jumped off and landed. Everything was fine. But these ball joints, you should check to make sure that you're getting legit ones that are high quality steel, and lubricate them. If you can find the ones with the grease fitting on top, get those. And if you have ones like this, drill a hole and put some grease fittings in that, because it's dangerous when you're not lubricating them and they break on you, especially like the way they did on me. So that's the next item that broke and keeps breaking. The next thing, as I mentioned, are these pre-filters, I think they're called, screens. Those, I believe, are legit K&N screens, but with just a little bit of heat from the pipe, and yeah, I know it's like a good half-inch away from it, so it's pretty close to it, and I was probably touching it, but it burned. You know, I don't fault them for that, but if you're riding rough, just go ahead and go get some foam, proper foam filters. Don't buy these filters. These are the K&N filters with the K&N screens, but if you on an ATV, I don't think these are the right filters. I think you should get foam filters. Now, they're not going to allow as much airflow. I think it's a sacrifice that you should make. You know, you lose a little bit of airflow, but you know what? Your engine's protected, and you won't have to rebuild your engine as much. You're probably sucking in a lot of dust. So that's one upgrade I have to make. Other than that, that's it. What I'm most surprised by is the eBay regulator rectifier and, you know, charging system, the Stator. Pretty surprised that's still working after all the abuse I put it through. But other than that, everything still works. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm actually going to get on it and ride it. So I'll bring you along for the ride. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try to respond. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Maybe in another 5 years.